There is a beast inside every one of us, whether we like it or not. Not the kind that snarls and roars, but the kind that smiles, rationalizes, and justifies. It hides in plain sight, beneath our silence, behind our ambitions, inside our fears. Every day we make decisions that either feed the part of us that is righteous or the part that will ruin us. God, in His wisdom, gave us one of the most dangerous and divine gifts known to creation, the ability to choose. He could have made us mechanical, rigid, programmed to do only good, but He didn't. He made us in His image. And to reflect that image, He gave us free will, the power to bless or curse, to build or to destroy, to love or to look away. There's a war inside every person. And it's not political. It's not tribal. It's not national. It's spiritual. You were born with a fire, a divine power to choose between light and darkness, between humility and pride, between compassion and apathy, between feeding the beast or feeding the spirit. God did not create you a puppet. He gave you the power of choice. Scripture says it plainly. I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing, therefore choose life. Deuteronomy 30:19. But the truth is, most people don't actively choose death. They simply don't choose life. They choose convenience. They choose comfort. They choose delay. They choose silence. And those choices, passive as they seem, are feeding a beast far more dangerous than we know. Here's the hard truth. The choices we make are not random. They are a reflection of what we've been feeding. The liar feeds the beast of deception. The greedy feed the beast of corruption. The arrogant feed the beast of self-worship. The apathetic? They feed the beast of indifference, which might be the deadliest of them all. If you see war and say nothing, if you see injustice and do nothing, if you hear the cries of Gaza, Sudan, Ukraine, Yemen, Somalia, Congo, and every other part of the world where death and destruction is on a daily basis, and scroll past like it's another commercial break, you are feeding a beast called silence. A man does not wake up one day and become a tyrant. A woman doesn't suddenly become hardened and indifferent. These things are fed, slowly, consistently, by the choices we make and the desires we entertain. We become what we nurture, whether we like it or not. And some of us, whether we admit it or not, have been nurturing darkness. Edmund Burke once said, "The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing." I'll take it a step further. If you do nothing, you are no longer good. If you see the horrors in areas like Gaza, Sudan, Ukraine, Somalia, Congo, Syria, including regions in your own country where people are dying and suffering, if you see images of children burned, women raped, entire communities erased, and you still say nothing, do nothing, feel nothing, you are feeding a beast. If you have the power to act, to speak, to intervene, and you choose apathy, you are not innocent. You are complicit. Because evil does not thrive because of monsters. It thrives because of cowards in suits, cowards in lab coats, cowards in pulpits. Let's talk plainly. If you're a lawyer or a judge, or you are in a position of authority, and you defend the powerful while knowing the powerless are crushed by the same law you manipulate, you're feeding the beast. You twist justice for a paycheck and then quote ethics in a courtroom. But God is not fooled. Isaiah chapter 10 verse 1 says, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed." Every time you let the guilty go free or bury a victim in technicalities, you are writing laws that God will one day overturn in fire. If you're a teacher and you use your classroom not to enlighten but to indoctrinate, if you poison young minds with confusion, misinformation about morality, gender identity fallacies, and without shame, you disguised sinful ideas and beliefs as tolerance and inclusion, then what are you teaching? You were meant to cultivate truth, not chaos. But instead you feed the beast of confusion, of moral decay. You strip innocence with theory and call it progress. But Christ said in Matthew chapter 18 verse 6, "Whoso shall offend one of these little ones, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and that he were drowned." You may hide behind curriculums now, but you will not hide from eternity. If you're a preacher and you know the truth but won't preach it because you're afraid of losing followers, tithes, or comfort, you're feeding the beast of compromise. You were not called to entertain sheep, you were called to lead warriors. If you water down the gospel to fit the world, you betray both. 1 Corinthians chapter 14 verse 8, "If the trumpet give an uncertain sound, who shall prepare himself to the battle? You see the wars, you see the suffering, and you stand behind your stained glass walls and cowardly say, let's not be political. No, let's be prophetic and let's be compassionate. If you're a tech CEO or influencer, and you've created platforms where lies spread like wildfire, where depression festers in children, where truth is buried beneath trends, and you say, it's just the algorithm, you're feeding the beast, and you are using your influence to destroy and not to build. You profit from addiction, you monetize attention, and you sterilize morality behind a screen. But your servers are storing more than data. They're storing judgment. If you are a doctor or a nurse or a healthcare manager or insurer, you watch patients die because they can't afford help, and they couldn't afford care, and you numbed your heart to it. You're feeding a beast. Not because you're evil, but because you allowed yourself to believe your hands were tied. Let me tell you something, they're not tied. You just need faith and courage to do the right thing. You were born with fire. You were born with choice. You can fight for life, or you can let systems kill and call it procedure. You ignore the broken and uninsured like their humanity has an expiration date. You didn't become a doctor to be a god. You were called to be a servant. The book of James chapter 4 verse 17 says, to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. Cowardice is not an excuse. You feed the beast every time you walk past the homeless man on your way to the office, every time you look at suffering with dry eyes and a numb heart. You don't need a gun to kill someone. You just need to do nothing when you could have done something. You just need to watch them suffer while you scroll or preach or campaign. If you're a citizen and you see your neighbor struggle, your community suffer, your streets fall apart, and you do nothing but tweet, you've become comfortable with feeding apathy. Do not mistake awareness for action. Do not confuse commentary for courage. You feed the beast when you censor your own conscience. When you watch a mother hold her dead child and you watch the horrors and atrocities they are going through on the news, and your answer is, it's complicated. No, it's evil. You don't need to understand the politics to feel the pain. You don't need to pick sides to call murder what it is. You just need a soul. Romans 12:21 says, be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. So when you stay neutral in the face of evil, you don't just fail to stop it. You become part of it. You may not be a president, you may not be a doctor, but you have power. Your voice is power. Your kindness is power. Your decision to show up, speak truth, and do good is power. And the question is simple. Which side of the beast are you feeding? When a child cries, do you look away? When a man begs, do you walk faster? When the news shows blood, do you change the channel? When God convicts you, do you say, maybe later? Every moment you feed apathy. Every second you feed pride. Every time you choose silence, the beast grows. But so does the other side. The side of love, the side of justice, the side of courage. So starve the beast, starve the excuses, starve the silence, starve the cowardice, and feed what's holy. Feed the fire God placed in you when He formed you in the womb. Feed the fight that refuses to bow to comfort. Feed the voice that breaks chains, because one day you will stand before God and He will ask, when I gave you power, what did you do with it? And if you're a politician, you see the brokenness. You hear the cries of veterans abandoned by the system. You see the racial disparities in prisons, the cost of food, the unaffordable housing, the erosion of civil liberty. You see the blood of foreign children dripping from your foreign policy, and you do nothing. Because you fear losing your next election more than you fear losing your soul. Because you fear the media more than you fear your maker. And you feed that fear. You feed it every time you say, it's complicated, instead of saying, it's wrong. He that ruleth over men must be just, ruling in the fear of God. 2 Samuel chapter 23, verse 3. You have power, but what have you done with it? The answer is not just political, it's spiritual, because the battle is not left versus right. It's light versus darkness. It's truth versus compromise. It's the beast versus the spirit. Abraham Lincoln said, nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. So let me ask every leader watching this, what have you used your power for? And the beast doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. It says, just stay quiet. It says, that's not your fight. It says, let someone else fix it. And when you agree, when you nod, when you scroll, when you shrink, you feed it. You were born in this generation on purpose, not to be neutral, not to be numb, but to be dangerous to evil, to be bold, to carry light into dark rooms, to speak when everyone else is afraid, to act when others stall. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to be famous. You just need to choose the right fire, because what you feed grows. You feed anger, you become rage. You feed lust, you become appetite. You feed pride, you become blind. But if you feed truth, you become unshakable. If you feed compassion, you become a bridge. If you feed faith, you become unstoppable. The world is on fire, and every soul watching this has a flame in their hands. You will either use it to light the way or to burn it all down. Because one day God will ask you, I gave you a voice, what did you say? I gave you a platform. What did you build? I gave you power. What did you feed? And on that day, silence will not save you. If this moved you, don't just like it, share it. Speak up, stop feeding the beast. Subscribe for more videos like this.